So we've got another 3 days to go, and we've traversed a fair bit of love, haven't we, ground and those things. So you can imagine where we're going to go in the next three. Well, you can't imagine where we're going to go in the next 3 days. We're just going to keep going deeper and deeper into your psyche, for you are the most important thing on earth. You, the individual, are the most important thing on earth. No one else is as important as you are, as long as you are going down into your own being. And because you have to face the fact that nobody else really exists. They all exist apart from you. You can only feel your own self. You can only feel your own being. You can only have the sensation of your own body. You cannot have the sensation of another body. You cannot have the sensation of America. You can't have the sensation of England, the Chinese, the suffering Indians or the suffering Rwandians. You can't have that. That's not true. You are the center of the universe. And the spiritual life is an extremely selfish life to the ordinary people of existence, for they like to worry about all sorts of things or pretend that they're concerned with other things, but really they're only concerned with their self. Whereas the spiritual life, you are concerned with me. You are concerned with truth, love, and God. That's the spiritual life. And anything that is not supportive of that, you will have to leave behind. Because the spiritual life is to take you down vertically into your own being. Whereas the ordinary life, which we all have to live, takes us along like this linearly until the day of our physical death. And that's where it ends, and then it's done. And the tight fist that I was speaking about, that every child is born with, is a fist of I'm going to use this word, negativity. Not negativity, but what will I use the word? Of negation. This is a fist of negation, not negativity. It's a tight fist which is going to bring about the circumstances, the positivity. This is negation. I don't like to use the word negativity because it suggests emotion and self. So it's a potency of negation which brings about in existence the positivity of circumstances. So even before the child is born, psychically, this fist is already in whatever we call the embryo or whatever it is. As the life enters it, so does this fist enter it. And it is already determined the whole physical existence right up until the moment of death by this negation. And even the parents that it's going to be born to is determined by this negation, whether they're happy or unhappy, whether the mother's going to leave them at 2 years old, 3 years old, or 10 years old. It's all built into this negation is going to create this positivity of circumstances. So existence is positive, and this is completely and utterly negation. Now this is called karma, a thing that's very seldom explained, or really by even of the East who do not explain it. And the best way to explain it superficially is to say it is the past repeating itself. So your past and my past is already repeating itself here now. This could not happen unless it was the past repeating itself. So everything, every day, is the past repeating itself in different clothing, in different circumstances, but it repeats itself. The impetus of the past, the ignorance of the past, repeats itself in the present. Now, there is one saving grace about this, because we hear this talk of fatalism. You know, people get these silly concepts as though there was an answer yes to a question, no to a question. There's no answer of yes or no to any question. None. It's far deeper than that, every question. So this is not fatalism, meaning that fatalism is that everything is preordained and it must happen like it must happen. So it's all preordained in here. This is going to happen, yes, except for one thing. There is a movement inside of man and woman, inside of us, of life, of intelligence, of the Spirit that is entering our bodies, of those who are ready to acknowledge the Spirit and make some vertical descent. And to the degree that we are able, you and I are able, through the fortitude and the nobility of man and woman, as we're able to face circumstances and not accuse or blame, but to face them from our own reality, and to not get emotional about them, to accept our life as it is, to do our best in the circumstances, to the degree that we are able to do that in all the challenges of our life. So we change this karma. We make a small change. We bring some reality, some nowness into what is already ordained. Now that can happen with ordinary people. You don't have to be living a spiritual life, because the whole of existence is a spiritual life lived by God, the Great, the Most High, an aspect of that coming into existence, endeavoring to come into everybody. And it is resisted by everybody's materialism, by everybody's mind, by everybody's emotions, by everybody's greed, by everybody's selfishness. In other words, that is resisting what the Spirit from entering into our bodies. Our fears and our doubts, our negativity, that's all resisting the most beautiful thing from coming into our body. But an ordinary person who has to undergo, like in great times of great suffering, I've got to use the past here just to make a point. I don't know that it ever existed, but at any rate. But if somebody had to face the horrors of something like the Holocaust, to have to face being imprisoned and tortured in South America or wherever it is, that's the favourite pastime down there in some regimes. They had to face that and actually go through the terrible anguish of coming up to that point of reality, that point of reality where it's going to happen, and still at the same time with the dignity of the human spirit to display that as just a pure surrender to life or to something greater than themselves. That changes things. Now, it changes the person in a particular body. It changes things in the vertical, down here. Something happens down here. Something vital happens down here, which may not happen in that person's life immediately or for some time. But the point is that each of us is not an individual. We are individual cells in the body of mankind. Now, we like to live independent life in the West, and we go and drive our cars and shout at the guy that just cut us off, and we do all sorts of things independently, but we do not know that we are cells in the great body of mankind. And our karma is not just what you have made for it, not just what your life, your past has made for it. That's not true. That's Eastern bullshit. The karma that is to repeat itself in existence is the karma of the human race, the whole human race. And the idea of this karma repeating itself in the present is for it the ignorance that has not been faced, the people who have not faced the truth, the people who have not died for love, the people who have exploited man, exploited woman, exploited love. All that ignorance, of course, has to be faced sooner or later by intelligence. That means by you and me. Somebody, somewhere. Intelligence has got to face it. Because it wasn't faced then. It was just accepted like you have a marriage and you just accept that everything's okay and it's all right. And that's ignorance. Because you weren't vigilant. You weren't told about life, that life's not like that. Everything's not all right. You've got to be vigilant and up there. And that's consciousness. And that changes karma. To be conscious all the time changes karma immeasurably. So the idea is to make the ignorance of yesterday conscious in my particular purview, through my particular body now. Isn't that what we're trying to do here? Isn't that what you come for? You come with a certain degree of ignorance in your body. I speak to you. At different times you see something, you hear something that applies to you. You see the truth of it. You see the ignorance that you've been living. You see something, you suddenly see it. And that is a contribution to the entire human race, not just to your own vertical descent, but to the whole human race, because you are a cell in the human race. And the object of our lives, which we never hear anything about this in the West, the object of our lives is for me to make this cell as vitally beautiful, that means functioning vitally, so that there's a sweet flow of psychic renewal all the time, every moment, so that there's no blockage in it. Because that's how a cell should work, isn't it? A cell should work without blockage. And so the function of life, or the purpose of life, is for me to purify my cell, so that there's this renewal every second psychically, so that I make my cell pure as is possible. And when I do that, there is at least one cell working well. And of course, there are many cells working well, or at half speed or quarter speed, and a lot in deep ignorance. But the idea is that when that cell dies, that deeply ignorant cell dies, it goes back into the pot. And the new baby that's born has to take its share of the ignorance of our human race, all the sexual ignorance, which is the ignorance of our times. All that sexual ignorance is going to relive itself. So it relives itself through the terrible, terrible sexual emphasis on our lives today. And it's reliving itself. And it's a wave that it's, as far as I see it, it's almost impossible to stand against it, but it's not, because you're here. And you're the one that can do something about it and take the sex out of love and the glamorizing of sex and all this nonsense that's going on. It's a great wave of karma, you see. And so the people of tomorrow, for the Mardi Gras to be a success, which it is, means that the people of tomorrow in the future are going to have to face more sexual glamour, more sexual glamorizing, more sexual projection, more sexual standing up and declaring as a minority that I am the truth, more sexual projection. The people of tomorrow are going to do that. There's going to be far more confused lesbians, gays, and everything, because this is what we're setting in motion. And just as you can't stop the scientists from cloning human beings, although everybody's saying, of course, it can't happen, we'll pass laws against it, no chance. We're going to clone. And so we've got to pay for today's cloning, or the people tomorrow have to pay for today's cloning of the sheep. They will certainly have to do that. But it will all work out all right. The only thing is that we will lose contact with the earth. Because if you start cloning sheep, you lose contact with the earth. I mean, the sheep are bred on the earth, you know, and they eat grass, and they're born of a mother who eats grass, and that's the earth. Now, as soon as we start breeding them from a test tube, we start to remove something from the earth, and so that it becomes a concept, more and more of a concept, like the virtual reality is all concept. There's no earth in it whatever, but it's all in the mind. And so we're getting further and further away from the earth, because love is of the earth. You know, to lie with my beloved on the earth, to make love on the earth, to be in the flowers and in the forest and in beauty and in love with my beloved, that's of the earth, because making love is of the earth. Making sex is of the mind, and all the cloning and all the rest of it is all part of the sexual momentum. It can't be stopped. But you, the individual, this great swamping wave of sexuality, sex shops, you know, they are trying to open them everywhere. What do our children get from this? The applications for sex shops everywhere, and brothels, you know, And there's nothing wrong with brothels, not a thing wrong with brothels. The reason is, I ask, why do we have to have brothels? You know, does anybody ask that question in the politics or anywhere? Not religious objection, for God's sake. Why do we have to have brothels? Pardon? A brothel is a whorehouse. Oh, you get that one. So why do we have to have brothels? We have to have brothels because man will not take responsibility for life. And if he can go into a brothel, he can go in and he can come in anyone as many times as he likes. He doesn't have to talk to her. He doesn't have to love her. He can just have his orgasm, walk away and be a respectable businessman immediately after. That's why we've got to have brothels. And we have to have brothels because man does nothing but think about sex, and therefore he doesn't want to masturbate all the time. He masturbates in between, so he goes to a brothel to get rid of it. That's why we have brothels. Would anybody like to give another reason? So the misuse of woman again. But that's all part of the karma of our race, repeating itself because we haven't faced it. So you can imagine as the sex shops go and the brothels keep growing and the ignorance of man's sexual ignorance keeps growing, you can predict what's going to happen 100 years, 500 years down the road. You can predict it. It's just going to get worse. That's all. And people are going to get further from the earth, further from the beauty of the earth and the beauty of love. So I'm like, I suppose I'm like King Canute saying, stop this wave. I've got no chance at all. But I do. Here you are. You see, it's done through the individual. You only have to stop it here in your own being, and somehow or other it's stopped. Because as soon as you die, it's finished. There's no world when you die. It's like going into deep dreamless sleep forever. But it is a place of great, great, indescribable peace or beauty or wonder, whatever words you like to use for it. And this all disappears. And so it didn't add up to anything anyway, really. But the extraordinary thing is that a value of my life is already being registered in another place. Down inside here is the value of this particular life that I have. Now, we don't know anything about this. It means that at different times of our life, there are climacterics in our life where there is an evaluation of the value of our life. I can only give you an outline of this because it's just too fine and beautifully precise, but I can just give you a brief outline. That where the value of the life is taken, and that can be, let's say, you've heard me probably say, at the woman's menstrual time. That is a climacteric, not menstrual time. Well, that's probably one of the climacterics. But where the woman, menopause, and her life up to that point is evaluated because she has loved, she has known joy, she has known pain, she has lived as a human being, and by now she should have become a mature woman, which means that she has an easiness, a knowledge of love, a knowledge of life, and she is easy. And this extraordinary change that comes into her is part of the climacteric, which can be quite physically uncomfortable for her indeed. But the point for her to know is, where I come from, is okay, there are all the physical symptoms and that, but I would face it as a climacteric, as a change, as an evaluation of your whole life, and you should come out of it the other end, not saying how bad it was or anything, but as a mature woman with some sense of serenity, some sense of being the dignity of woman, who is like a guru of woman, able to communicate to the younger people, those coming on who will listen, a sense of reality, of love and truth. And that's what that is. Now for her, there is this evaluation of our life is going on at different times. The same for man, you know. He has this period from 40 to 45 where he goes through extraordinary changes. But there are many places along the way to this where the life is evaluated, and that the value of the life is taken. Now you've heard of light. You've heard of light, and there's a reference to it in the Bible, a frequent reference, according to his lights. Well, I don't go for lights. I say according to his or her light. Now, inside your body, in this cone, you are a light. Sometimes it depends on everyone. No one's the same necessarily. Sometimes it is shining bright. Sometimes it is dimmed. But the value of your life and of all lives that are lived, not yours because you're going to die and disappear like I am, never to be seen again. But the value of the life that is lived comes into this and contributes to the light of the light. And so the light becomes a little brighter with each life, and with each action of fortitude, each action of rightness, of being true to love or life or to something that is real, and not to some religion or some tradition, but being true to the life in you, the reality in you, contributes to the light of you. Now you are a light, and you will always be a light, but it will not be you. You see, it can't be you because what we call you or me, what we call I, is a person, a set of senses, a set of memories, a set of connections between sense and memory of the past. That's what our person is. And our person dies absolutely and completely. And all that we've ever been in terms of sense perception is absolutely dead. That's what death is. Everything goes. But what survives is the light. And the light is the light of consciousness. And that glows brighter and brighter to the degree that I can live a light, that I can live a life of truth and life and being true to God and life, or just being true to what I am. So my light glows. And when the time comes of my death and my whole physical body disappears and all that I've ever known disappears, the consciousness, the value of the whole life and every life that's ever been lived that has been affected by this one light here is evaluated here. So this is consciousness. Now the thing about consciousness is, and that's where we do what we do when we go into being, we are going into consciousness. Consciousness knows everything. Consciousness is fully informed. Consciousness knows, for instance, that there's no death because all those bodies and things have died, and here consciousness still is. So consciousness has the implicit knowledge. It's just a little bit of life that's come in to say hello, and no doubt will leave us when it's ready. So consciousness knows everything. Everything that I need to know, if I live in consciousness, everything I need to know is already known. But if I live in my human mind, I worry about this and I want to know that, and I got lots of questions and lots of this, but that's all going to die. And this is my reality, although it can't be the reality of any person because the person is going to die. Do you get it? So what do we do in this teaching? I say, well, now let's go into being, into the place of consciousness, and you can get an idea of what it is to be dead. That is a great stillness, a great peace, a great nothing. No mind can enter it, no past, no memory, but it is just so completely me that it doesn't matter. I don't need to know anything, because in knowing nothing, I know whatever I need to know because I will be informed by my consciousness. Do you get it? So in other words, For instance, take the spiritual master. A true spiritual master never asks any questions about the spirit of love, God, life, truth, or death, because he has already realized the consciousness which knows everything. So why would he have a question to ask? If he needed to know anything, like when I'm talking to you, if I need to know anything, I don't need to know it because it automatically comes out of my consciousness through this body. You see? So consciousness knows everything, whereas man's mind never knows everything. As soon as he knows a bit more, he wants to know a bit more. He can never reach any end to that. So this is your light. And you are all a light. Every one of you is a light. And there is no death except the death of your person, which terrifies the person, of course, unless it has realized something to do with consciousness or being, unless it has a perception of something beyond itself that I love. Now, I have to ask each one of you, do you love something that you cannot name? I have to ask you that, you see, for where we're going here in this dialogue. Do you love something that you cannot name? Does it occur to you from time to time, I just love. Do you? Or do you always have to have an object to love? Has it got to be a man, a woman, a tree, a house, a kitten, or a child? Has it got to be that? Or is it true that you have the knowledge that there's something I love that has no existence but is? And I suggest that each one of you has that knowledge. Otherwise, it is obvious, is it not, that you could not sit here half the day yesterday and all day today. What the hell are you doing here if you don't love something that's not an object? You're not here because you love me. I'm not worth loving. The truth I am is worth loving, indeed. But where's that? Well, you can't find that. It just seems to come out of here. So that's what you love. You love truth, and your own love brings you here. Your own love of truth brings you here, so that you might hear a reflection of what you already know about love and truth. You need that reflection because you love this thing, which it can be called love or truth or God. But it's what I call an it. It has no object, and if you don't like God, you can call it it. If you don't like life, you can call it it. But there's something that you love that has no object. And that, of course, is consciousness, which is in your own very being, underneath the restless person and the restless mind. And that is your light. Now, if we go into myth, that's not myth what I was saying, that's reality. But if I went into myth, I would say that each of you is a star. And the thing is to be able for your light to burn so brightly that you are a star. You see? And once when such things in mythology were known and the Western world had not polluted the whole world, the world of man's mind, once, as you know from astrology, different what did they call them? I've forgotten the word. Different half men and half gods. What do they call them? No. No, I'm sorry. Different what was... No, I'll try and get the word in a minute. Sorry about this. Don't need it, I suppose. So they were placed in the heavens. You know, the stars represent particular of these particular people who walked the earth and in mythology, and when they died they became a star or in a constellation and formed a constellation. Now, if we keep going into mythology, there is no reason why you should not be a star and be placed in the heavens, because there's many stars in the heavens, you know. And one of those stars is probably you. The only thing is it hasn't been realized. It's still a myth. So we are talking, I've only gone into myth just there. I'm talking about your light, which is the truth. And that's reality. But I suspect that each of us is a star. But you can't be a star while you're a person. You see, you have to give up your person and you have to join the great consciousness of man and woman, which is the consciousness of the earth. And that's about as far as I can take it. But it's not bad, is it? Eh? It's not bad to think that you're a light that continually keeps lighting and lighting. But even though the person has to die. Now, that's the reality. And let's go into this place where there is me, where this being is, where this consciousness is. Oh, let's go into my light. Now remember, it's nothing. You can't let the mind look at a light in there, for God's sake. Let's do that. I was just using existential terms to describe something that is not in existence, but is inside my body, out of existence, deep down under the senses. So it's a state of nothing. But it is the reality. And it is the being that's behind my existence. And it's the same being that's behind the existence of every single person. For we are one as this divine being that you can join now and commune with by being it. There is only one being. That's all. And all existence comes out of this one being. And this being is, to our perception, nothing. And myself doesn't like nothing, so it gets terrified or pulls back when my intelligence endeavors to disappear into this nothing. Myself often pulls it back, my mind, with fear. But just persevere, sink down into it, be it. Not that there's anywhere to go and anywhere to sink into, really. It's just purely a state beyond existence, beyond senses. The only thing you can say, it is inside what appears to be my body. That's all you can say. It's a state in there. It is towards union with this state of being which you are in now, union with it, that every bit of love is about, endeavoring to have union with this divine being, which is really inside of me. And here we are, doing it, taking that action. And the more I am able to do this, the more I will be able to do it. But if I don't do it in my pause in my busy life, even if it's only for a minute or so, to just enjoy the sweetness of my own being in stillness and silence, then it will leave me. I will not be able to do it. And I will get on with my busy life, which leads to nothing anyway in the end. Now remaining in this consciousness, open the eyes and demonstrate that you are in existence and yet you are still in this place of consciousness where there is no form and nothing, and yet it is the very foundation of my whole body and my life. That is my being. But it is nothing to speak of. Nothing. Now, would anyone like to ask me a question, please? Yes, Yvonne?
About menopause, I have a question. You explained that it has its own reason. It's not for nothing, right?
It's not what?
It has its own reason.
Yes.
Can you tell me what I do wrong? That it takes me already 10 years for menopause.
Well, perhaps it's taken me already 7 years to get through the menopause. Is that what you said? 10 years. What have I done wrong? Well, I don't think you've done anything wrong, but I think it would be much better psychologically for you if you looked at it like I have described it and not as the doctors describe it. It would be far better to see it in its true psychic form for what it is, that you will come out of this a mature woman because you have loved and you have suffered, you have been a human woman, you know? You've gone through all the pains and joys of existence, and if you're a woman who has had children, you give birth to children, you've loved man, you've done it all. And by the end of that time, by the time a woman's ready for menopause, she has done it all, and she is then ready for the digestion. The menopause period is a sort of a digestion of the entire life while it's being evaluated, and she comes out of it the other side a mature and serene woman, more serene, untroubled. Now, in the menopause, of course, you get troubled and you get flustered, of course, and those sort of things happen. But when you go through it, you come out of it a more serene woman than you were before, and more at peace and more at rest, and more able to express the truth that you have learnt from your long life. I have a feeling that I've overlooked something, though the only thing you overlooked is coming to me before today. So that, yes, a second time, because there is only one way that we can learn, and that is by being instructed by a master who knows or is what he's talking about. Otherwise, we're instructed by professors and people and therapists and those sort of things, and they are not divinely inspired. You've got to be divinely inspired to be rightly instructed. And that's very rare on this earth, except in moments. Of course, everyone's divinely inspired at different moments, but as an uninterrupted truth and love. And when you come to a master, that's what he's there for, provided by God. And then you hear things that make you look into your life more deeply, and you start to realize that there is far more to your life and your love than what you thought or felt. And you start to make changes in your life that make you more free, a greater freedom, because there's nothing like freedom, like facing the truth and the fact and freeing yourself of all the old baggage that you've been holding on to because nobody told you any better with any reality. Because parents and everyone are always telling us something better, but it doesn't mean anything to us unless they have the divine power to penetrate. And that's up to God, of course, so I don't know who I penetrate, but I have the power to penetrate by my reality. So yes, you look at the menopause and know you're not missing anything, you haven't done anything wrong, anything, you've lived. It doesn't matter what you think, you've lived, you're in the menopause. Now get it over fast by seeing what I've said and come out of it the serene woman that you are. Mature woman. Right. Yes, your name again?
Kim.
Yes, Kim.
As a master, have you got powers? Did you hear about the Indian masters who create things?
Yes.
Power?
As a master, says Kim, do you have powers? You hear about the Indian masters having the power to create things. No, every master has a different power. He has different powers. And there's no doubt that the Eastern Masters have these psychic powers. There's no doubt to produce things, to do things, to perform magic, because the East is based on magic. Now, the West is based on practicality, not magic, down to earthness, because you can't fly a rocket by magic. Perhaps the Eastern Masters could once, like a flying carpet or something, but you can't fly a rocket into space on magic, because that's all the work of the Western mind. So a master in the West, his power is to take the emotion out of people, the most destructive force on the earth, and to change sexuality as much as he is able to through his power, which he does have the power to do that, into love. They're the two most destructive forces on the face of the earth. Emotion being the devil, the old Christian devil is your emotions, and everybody's emotions, that's the Christian devil. And so he has the power to get rid of that devil, and of course the devil, the dragon, is sex. The sex and the dragon are the same thing. And he addresses that and helps you to fight those things, like the man as the St. George defeating the dragon, and as woman and man turning their emotion, getting rid of that and becoming love. That is my power. I have that power. But of course, we do enjoy magic. We love the magic of the East, and it is the popular idea these days for everyone to go over, or those who are teachers, to go to the East, sit with an Eastern master, pick up his, no doubt, his spiritual emanation, and then come back to the West and teach the West and the East. But where I come from, I do not know a teacher who is not in the West, who is not Eastern orientated. You might know one. I don't. All the contemporary teachers or masters have all got this Eastern thing in them. And where I come from, that cannot teach the West, because it's got too much sense of magic and not enough down-to-earthness in it, and a sense of imagination, and a sense of not facing the fact of life and truth, which we in the West have to do. So I don't know a contemporary master on the scene who has not used Eastern words, does not use Eastern practices, has not been with an Eastern master following some so-called tradition of spirituality, which is not the truth at all. It is not the truth. There is no tradition of spirit. The spirit is new every moment, and you cannot follow a tradition in it. It is not true. It gets into psychic nonsense, magic. And of course, that's not the truth. To work magic, to produce ashes out of the air, to produce rings, to produce birds, what's that got to do with me being free? It's a nice little glamorization of truth, and that's fair enough. Magic, entertains the people. But what about finding God? What's that got to do with finding God? It does show to the doubting Western mind that there are psychic powers which are beyond the human mind, which the West, of course, jokes about and likes to fiddle with, but really won't take responsibility for, or decries or criticizes. But the fact is that psychic powers do exist. That's a fact. There's a psychic world just inside there, which is totally different to anything that we can imagine. It is there. There's no doubt about it. And some, especially in the East, have the power to use that psychic power to do all sorts of extraordinary things. But the most extraordinary thing for me, where I come from, is to produce a man or a woman who is a man or woman of truth or love. That's probably the most... Would that be so? Would that be what it's about? Or I think I should produce a sparrow? Would that help you? Oh, then you would think, isn't he wonderful? Isn't he marvelous? And what's that got to do with you being free? Nothing. Nothing. You see, it's not putting first thing first. I must realize the source of my own being, the source of God, the source of truth, the source of existence. I must realize that. And that's done not through performances, but through the reality of being still and giving up myself and its emotions and thoughts. Okay? All right, Kim? Kim, was it? Yes, Kim. Yes, this gentleman. What's your name? Brett. Yes, Brett.
What about ritual magic of the pagan religions?
What about ritual magic of the pagan religions? Again, that is a psychic, calling up the dead. So it's calling up, you can do magic. You can do magic with blood. The more blood, if you've got the power and you can really work it, you can bring up magic with blood. Menstrual blood is very powerful. If you've got the power and the interest, you can bring it up. You can bring up the dead. You can do all sorts of things in the psychic world. You can do what you like. But my God, it's dangerous. It will eventually destroy you. I'll tell you that. It will turn on you because the psychic world is not the truth. And under that is the truth. And the truth will always destroy the psychic world and anyone who pursues it. But you can do all those things. So, if you want to engage in those things, I tell you, you will be self-doubtful, your health will suffer, and you'll be a warrior in your own space, and you will know deep depressions from time to time. Yes?
My name's Quinty.
Quinty? Yes, Quinty.
Who was your master?
And my master was a man named John Hart, who came from another place into a Western body for 6 weeks to teach me and then disappeared again. Quite incomprehensible what I've said, but that's the truth. For I am a spirit that came into this body of Barry Long, and that's just the same. And into this man, who was one of my students, came the spirit that came to teach me. And when it had taught me, and my woman, who was my wife at the time, who died later of cancer, when he had taught us, he departed. He withdrew from that body, as I will withdraw from this body at the right time. All right? Incomprehensible in Western terms, thank you. And remember that the spirit of woman is endeavoring to enter you. The same spirit that is in me, that is immortal and forever, and is truth without any limit, is endeavoring to enter your body. And the only thing that resists us is your mind and your fear. And your fear to love, perhaps. Okay? It's all incomprehensible to the Western mind. If there's a psychiatrist here, he can have a go at me if he likes to. You see, I am conscious. I am conscious. I am God realized. That's behind any therapy, anything. I can answer any question about life, love, truth, death, or God. Any right question that I get, I have immediately the answer. That's because I'm God conscious. You don't have to believe me, but I'll be talking for the next 3 days, as well as around the world, for the rest of my life, without reference to anything but my own knowledge. Yes, wait till I get someone who hasn't spoken. Yes, Willem?
What do you mean when you said where I come from?
Where I come from, what do you mean by where I come from? I come from a deep place in the psyche. Now, so do you. You come from a place underneath your subconscious, each of you. But we get lost in our subconscious, which is all our thoughts and ideas and notions and emotions, and so our intelligence gets caught in our subconscious. And just under the subconscious is the psychic world. As a matter of fact, it's part of that. And sometimes we get trapped in the psychic world of magic and miracles and those sort of things, and busy ourselves with that, with primitive, whatever you described it as, all that. Now we get trapped in that, our intelligence. And the only way to realize deeper down here is I have to give up all my psychic attractions, all my psychic knowledge, all my psychic attachments. I have to give up all my attachments to my subconscious, to all my thoughts, to all my wants, to all my trying. I have to give everything up, to all my fears, to all my doubts, to all my resentments, to all my moods and anger. I have to give all that up. And of course, when I do that, that means I sink through that. And then I can realize the deeper levels of the consciousness of being, which is man and woman's being. That's all there, just as I've described as it how it is. And you can hear the people say often at my meetings that how their life has changed because they've lived a life of dissolving their self, their negativity. And as they do, their circumstances change, because as I am within, so my circumstances unfold without. And the further I go down into the realization of God, or life, or truth, the more my circumstances become harmonious. And I don't have to choose anymore, and I don't have to make decisions that I used to once. And it all becomes one harmony. And that depends on going down into here. And that's done precisely by all that we are doing here at this meeting. All the things we're talking about and that you are seeing, that you need to do, or that you know you have to do, all the things that you've seen, they increase your light. And as your light increases, you realize a deeper part of your own being. All right, Willem? Yes, good, good. Anyone else have a question, please? Yes, Tim.
Barry, if that spirit, the one spirit, if it enters my body or it enters a woman's body, does it take on a different aspect? So it's the same
Yes.
spirit that enters.
The one spirit, if it enters a man's body or a woman's body, does it take on a different aspect? Yes, in that sense, God is indeed a spirit, the only spirit. But it seems as though God can only be seen in man or woman. You don't see any God any other way. You can see them psychically, perhaps a vision or something. You can see different manifestations of an aspect of God, such as a light or even a form that you know to be holy or right or good. There's no doubt about that exists without embodiment. But it still exists in the psyche as we exist in the physical. So it seems as though there are aspects of the one spirit that differentiates into different, let's say, spirits. But every spirit that is a high spirit, let's say, that is a real spirit and not just a person or just a light, will always disappear back immediately into the one spirit, because you can't be a high spirit unless you have given your entire being to God, the one spirit. So you would only manifest in existence or in the psyche for some particular purpose of God's purpose, but as soon as that was done, bang, you go back immediately into the one, the Most High, whence you came, because you cannot have any individuality in spirit. You see? So it is the physical body that makes, for instance, myself. It is the physical body that makes me different or separate. But I am not. I will not be separate from God. I am one with God. I couldn't be anything else but that, and nor could you. The only thing that makes us all unhappy is that we're separate from God. We're separate from love. That's all. And love is God. And as soon as we're one with love or one with God, it's so completing in us. You know, we just say, this is all I ever wanted. You can have everything else. This is what I wanted. But it is this terrible karma that we are afflicted with in existence, the karma of the human race and all that it has done that is ignoble and exploitive of others and cruel and greedy. It's this terrible karma that it is born with us, like the man in the wheelchair. He's got to be there because he's got to deal with that, which some of us don't have to deal with. He's got to deal with that and be as resolute as he possibly can and accept that and as it were, surrender to God and do his best to just be. And then there are others, with terrible afflictions. We've all got to have these, and everybody's got to carry their burden. You are not just your own karma. It's not your karma. That's selfish to think that you have a karma. Of course, you set in motion by your own actions today, reactions tomorrow and down the line. But the basic thing is that you are a member of the human race. You can't cut yourself off from that. You can't say, well, I unilaterally declare myself not to be a member of the human race. You've got to take responsibility for the ignorance of the human race because you are a member of it and always have been and always will be. And that's our burden in existence. We must endeavour to purify the karma, the terrible bank up and build up of ignorance that is of our own race, the human race. And that's what you want to know. Why this happened to you? People often ask, why does this happen to me? Well, why shouldn't it happen to me? What, do you want it to happen to someone else? Yes, sure I do. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You got to take your burden the same as everybody else. And nobody escapes. Not even the man with $50 million. He still has his burden. The dollars don't make any difference. He still carries his great burden of emotion and doubts and fears. He still does the same thing. Everybody has their burden. Now, it's best to treat it that way than the way the Western world treats it, isn't it? And independence. How about dying for the human race? How about every time you go to get angry, stop it, forget it, because I will not have it. I'm not going to contribute to the ignorance of this race. I'm not going to be moody. Why should I be moody and selfishly moody and spread my black darkness around the place? Why should I do that? No, I won't have this mood in me. I won't have this selfishness in me. Why can't I endeavour to live like that? Endeavour, I mean, you can't do it overnight, but perhaps you can. But that's what I teach. You are a part of the great body of mankind. And if you think you're separate from it, then you're utterly selfish. And if you live your life separate from that, you are selfish. So take your burden, know that you have to live it through, that's all right, but it will pass in time. Take your burden, face it, do the best you can, accept your life as it is. And when you accept your life as it is, that's the possibility of change. Because that's what I say, you then contribute to your light and you can then change. Possibly it can change in circumstances. But if you want to fight against your life and try and get out of it and do this and do that, making decisions left, right and centre and hitting out and accusing and blaming others, it just goes on and on. You live in the same stricture and contraction that provokes in you. So accept your life as it is for now. Are you trying to change your life? For God's sake, stop it. Accept it as it is, for it is God's will that your life be precisely as it is at this moment. Otherwise, do you think you're God? Your decisions are God. Who do you think's doing this to you? It is the divine knowledge, it is the divine intelligence that's doing this to your life. Now, providing this life. What you have to do if you want it to be changed, if you really want it to be changed, you must accept it as it is. When you do that for long enough, a miracle happens and it changes for you, without you having to change it. Now, did you hear me? Right. I trust you heard me. Stop fighting against your life. Accept it for now and watch the miracle. Okay then, well, I think we've made up for a bit of lost time that we lost today. And I do thank you once again for being with me. And what are the arrangements for tomorrow, please, Kate?
We start at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
We start at 2. And I'm very pleased to see so many people here. I think we have 140 altogether. And I'm very pleased to see that you're all here. And although I know some people have got to leave because of work arrangements for the weekend, I trust that we've covered enough of the spiritual life to reinforce what you're doing. And I trust you'll come again and be with me so that I may inform you as a cell in the body of mankind more of what it is to make your cell, more pure and contribute to the human race. Thank you all for being with me, and I'll see you tomorrow, those of you who will be here. Thank you.